Hi. And now here's my shoe that we're going to be doing the tutorial on. I haven't quite added all the decorations that I want to. For Halloween, this is the bat shoe. We have a bat as our toe front. And for fun, we have a bat in the back. And it'll be my pleasure to show you how this was put together and made. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, I'm Bobby from Bobby's Baking Blog, and since I've had a lot of requests for my Purple Passion Fondant heel, I decided that I would go ahead and show you how to do a platform heel. I realize that's not purple, it's red. It's Fonderific's red fondant. If I'm going to use, like the purple I made myself, the color, not the fondant. But if I'm going to use red or black, I'd rather buy it already made since it takes so much color to get that intensity. It's easier for me to do it this way. So you're going to start with a nice round ball with no creases, nice and even. And then all you want to do is add pressure to the bottom part of your ball and roll a nice cone. And sometimes I'll bring my fingers down like this just to give my heel the look that I want. I realize that it's going to not stay as I am rolling, but it gives my visual sight a way of knowing where I'm trying to get to. And I want my heel to be fairly thin. So I'm going to go longer than what I actually need this to be with just my fingers. And sometimes with the Fonderific, it will get a little bit shiny and you don't always have time to let it rest. I have cornstarch sticking by and I'll just rub that in. If you like the feel of icing sugar, it's just a personal preference. The other thing that you need is Tylose. We carry that in our store. You're going to want about a tablespoon for the heel, just to give the fondant a little bit more structure. You could do a 50-50 with fondant and gum paste, but I find I don't have enough time to do what I need to do. And the Fonderific is so wonderful in having unlimited time, even with the Tylose. I'd rather do that. Now I will tell you that I have found with the Fonderific, because it does have such limited time, that sometimes I'll make my ball and let it sit for maybe an hour before I go and actually do the heel, just to give it a little bit more structure and a little bit more stability, because it's still a little bit wobbly, as you can see. But I have a trick for that, and I can show you that too. I'm going to take this to 13 centimeters, which is about 5 inches. It's easier for me to measure in centimeters because it's a little bit more exact. So I'm going to make a mark at 13. And that's a little bit more than 13, but I'm going to take my bobbleless top, a little bit of that off. So I'm going to take that, move it to the side, kind of reshape it a little bit, bring it down. Now remember, a heel kind of has that square top. It's not completely round, although I have been seeing some very odd shaped heels. And then I'm just going to take this and cut it. This is a tissue blade. It's made by Kemper. We will be carrying that in about a week or two. It's actually used for polymer clay, but it works perfectly for fondant. Fondant and polymer clay are so similar in the way that they work, that a lot of the tools will work for them. The next thing I'm going to do, and this is personal, some people don't care, I like to get that nice heel effect that's going to attach. So I found if I can just put my smoother at an angle and bring it up, and then go back in and kind of shape that beautiful round heel part that you get at the top there. On the Purple Passion, I realized a little bit late that I didn't have that, and I added it in later, which we might end up doing with this, I don't know. Usually that's something I have to check at the end. Alright, so I'm going to remeasure this since I did play with it. And I am a little bit over. If you're too high, sometimes your heel will stand too straight up and it won't look natural. Now you can go as thin as you want down here. You can go even thinner than this. But remember, we're going to get this skewer in here. So I wouldn't go much thinner than that skewer, and it is hard to do. I have problems with it myself sometimes. So what I like to do, because we are working with Fondant, and it still is a little bit wobbly, as you can see, I'm going to put this in the freezer for about 6 minutes, come out and skewer it, and then shape it. Welcome back. We have taken our heel out of the freezer, and I went ahead and skewered it. As you can see, it's going through the bottom part of the heel and upward. And the best way I can tell you to do that is you want to twist and push and pull out, twist and push and pull out. This one's in actually really good. I can't get it to move at all, so I'm pretty happy with that. You might end up disfiguring it just a little bit when you twist and pull from the freezer, but you can fix that, and I'm going to show you how. The other thing I was going to show you is I just went ahead and skewered my toe tap with the tissue blade, and you can go ahead and add a toe tap, a black toe tap in, or a tan toe tap in. I think it's just going to look even and a little bit more natural if I paint over this rather than trying to get one to fit exactly perfectly. So that's why I did what I did. When you go to smooth out your heel, you're just going to use normal fondant smoothers that you would for a cake. You want the straight side facing towards the narrow end of your heel, and you're going to lean one side up as you use the other. Like I'm leaning my left side up, and I'm using my right side just to even that out. And then do the same thing on this side. And that should take out any prints that you have and give you back that shape that you want. You can also go down, because heels are not, like I said, just completely round. So what we have left is to put our little wooden piece that is on a heel back here. And then we need to let this actually rest for 24 hours to give it the structure to hold the shoe. I did want to show you real quick before we move on that this is another type of heel, and it was made with the cake structure mold, and you can get this at cakestructure.com. The only reason that I didn't start off with using this mold, it is faster, and of course it's going to save you time. Not everybody has it. When I first started making shoes, I did not have the mold, so I had to come up with inventive ways to make it look like a heel. But this is available on the market. I would suggest, whether or not you want to spend the investment, depending on how many heels you think you might do, in getting this drying ramp. Because you're going to lay your sole on here, your heel is going to attach to the back, it's going to give it a little bit more structure. So that I would definitely invest in getting, unless you know how to cut styrofoam yourself. Alright, so what we have left, like I said, and it would be on either one of these, is there's a little strip in the back of a heel. It's generally tan, so that's the color that we're going to use. And it just is going to be attached to this area right here. In order to do that, you will need a piece of fondant that is either an off-white, an antique white, beige. You could add a little bit of brown if you wanted to, a little bit more of that look that's on shoes, that wooden look. And you're going to want to add Tylose to it, because as you can see, my gum paste still is very pliable, which is wonderful for eating and covering a cake and all that. And the fashion part of the shoe that we're going to do when we do the toe and the heel, it's not so good when we need structure. So what I'm going to do is add some Tylose. I'm going to add some Tylose in there. And on this, you don't need a tablespoon. You probably need, I would start with, looks like I'm almost empty. It's a good thing I have another one. As long as we're talking about the Tylose, I want to tell you there's many Tyloses on the market, CMCs. I particularly like this brand because it's white. I tried a brand that I love for other things, and it did change the color of the fondant because it had kind of a, I don't know, a grayish tone to it, I guess you would call. So you do want to stick with a very white Tylose for this, so you can keep your colors as true as possible. And I can feel that my fondant is changing, but it's not changing enough. It's still fairly limber. So I'm going to add some more. I'll just open up another one. And you're looking for almost of a 50-50 that you would get with like a gum paste fondant mixture. And you can use, like I said, gum paste. You can do your own 50-50. You don't have to use the Tylose. I like the Tylose because sometimes gum paste will dry up too fast and you'll get cracks. And this way I know I won't. So I can feel it feels pretty good. Alright, this is a odd little trick that I kind of came up with. And I'm going to move my mat out of the way to show it to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll this. And this is probably too big of a piece, but that's alright. I'm going to roll this out a little bit. Looks like I got a little bit of red in there. If I hadn't mentioned before, red is one of those colors, like black, you're going to want to wash your hands in between, especially when we go and we do the two-tone colors for the toe piece and the heel piece. So I'm going to put this in a pasta machine, bring it down to a number 1. Normally on these I use 0, but for this piece we just need a little number 1. I'm just making an impression, and for the front part of my heel. This heel's a little bit, the other heel's going to be done differently than this one. So I'm going to go in with my mini pizza wheel. I prefer the pizza wheel more than I would an X-Acto blade. Although you will be needing an X-Acto blade later, because I get less dragging and I seem to have better control over the pizza blade. So I am just cutting this out. And like I said, all I did was turn that mold upside down to get this impression. It's going to be a little bit longer than I want because you obviously are not going to want that piece to go over your toe tap piece, but we can cut that with some fine scissors when we get there. So I'm just going to see, looks like it might be just a little bit too wide. So I might have to go in and shave it up a little bit, and I do. So I'm going to just kind of make it fit and mark without hurting my heel where I think I need to go in. And this very, very top part, you are not, excuse me, going to need. So if it doesn't come out, don't worry about it. If it ends up fitting, don't worry about it. Either way, it's not going to be seen because that's the part of the heel that's going to attach to the back of your shoe. So I have my piece ready, and I made my own edible glue with some Tylose powder, some water, and a little bit of sugar. And I'll give that recipe on the blog, and then you let it sit overnight till it gets nice and thick. You don't want too much, just enough. So it sticks. Okay, I want to make sure that this is lined up to where the toe tap's going to be. And then I'll come in right here, even it up, and gently lay it down. And that's all there is to this. You're going to want this to rest for 24 hours to give it stability. So I will see you in the next lesson. I want to take just a few minutes to explain how I did this piece. It is a little bit different than the other one, and it takes some measuring. So what you're going to want to do is measure down here, which is exactly 1 millimeter, and up to the top, which is about 2.5 millimeters, it looks like. I know that I do not want to come down to where I indented my toe tap, which coincidentally ends up being almost the length of this blade. So I'm going to leave that little bit of extra just in case I need it. So I know that I need it to be a little bit less than 1 millimeter because we want a little bit of that red showing. And my husband showed me this neat little trick where you can kind of eyeball it so it's centered. So your centimeter, or your little less than centimeter centered. And I'm going to mark where I centered it with my blade very lightly. And then I'm going to mark on this side with my blade. And I can already tell. There we go. Very lightly. And then what you're going to want to do at this point is take your blade, and remembering that you're going to be wider at the top, keep it on as straight of an angle as you can. As you can see, I bowed just a little bit, so I'm going to come in here and take that out. And the same thing on the other side. And I know that that's still a little bit bowed and too big. I'm going to go in and do it again. You can always take more, but if you take too little, or if you take too much, excuse me, you're going to end up having to start over. And you're just going to keep coming in and cutting at your angles to get it. Straight bottom. And that's all you need. Take a little bit of your sugar glue and glue it down onto your heel the same way you did the mold heel.